So in this section, we're going to solve for y first because we want to write the equations in the slope-intercept form so that we can graph using the slope and y-intercept. So I gave you some hints here. First of all, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M stands for the slope, b the y-intercept. So we first need to solve for y and then plot the y-intercept, which is the b value, then use the slope. Remembering that if the slope, well, first of all, slope's a fraction, a ratio of the rise to the run, the y's to x's, and we're going to go up if it's positive, down if it's negative, that's the top number, and then on the bottom number, if it's positive, we'll go right, negative, we'll go left. So taking a look at this first problem, we need to get y by itself. And so first thing I'm going to do is subtract 2x from both sides. Once I've done that, I've done it. I've gotten y by itself. So we can rewrite our equation, and it would be y equals negative 2x plus 3. I like to put the x term first, the constant last, so it matches our equation, our form that we want it in. And from there, I can go ahead and figure out what my slope is and my y-intercept. So remember, the y-intercept is the b term. That's the number that's being added or subtracted from the x value. And so here's my y-intercept. I'm going to start at that point. So I go 3 spaces up, and I put the dot. Now, I'm going to use the slope. So let's take a look at this slope. The slope is negative 2. That's what's changing x. So if I wrote that as a fraction, it would be negative 2 over 1. That tells me that I have to go down 2 and then right 1 space. So down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. You can do that a few times. You could also go the other way. The other way would be 2 over negative 1. That would be up 2 spaces and then left 1 space. So up 2, left 1, up 2, left 1. And then we've got a bunch of points. We could go ahead and draw our line. And so again, the line's going downhill from left to right. And we go ahead and put some arrows at the end, showing that it goes on forever in those directions. So that's the first one. Let's take a look at this next one. Here we've got 2 extra steps we're going to end up having to do. First one is the same as the last problem. We have to move the x term over to the right-hand side. By subtracting that 1/2 x, we'll cancel it out from the left-hand side. So we're left with that negative y equals, and then negative 1/2 x plus 4. And so when I subtracted that 1/2 x from both sides, I rewrote it with the minus sign in front, and then since this is a positive 4, we just brought down that plus 4. So now I still need to get rid of this negative. In order to get rid of a negative, you can just multiply both sides by negative 1. Do the same thing on this side as well, multiply by negative 1. And what that'll do is that it will change all the signs that we have. So it becomes a positive y equals 1/2 x and then minus 4. So from there we could go ahead and figure out what our y-intercept and our x and our slope are. And so here we have a y-intercept of negative 4. So what that means is I'm going to go down 4 spaces and put a dot. And then I'll use the slope. So remember, the slope in this case is the number in front of x. It's this value right here. It's this 1/2. So if I rewrote that, the 1 over 2, the 1 tells me to go up 1 space. The 2 tells me to go right 2 spaces. And so I'll go up 1, right 2. And you can do that a bunch of times and you get a lot of points that represent that line. We could also go the other way, which would be down to the left, because 2 negatives make a positive. And then from there, we can go ahead and draw our line. And so again, our line is going to extend through the points that are there, past those points with arrows at the end showing that it goes on forever. Well, that's how we graph lines that are not quite in slope-intercept form. And again, the idea is always to get y by itself. So let's take a look at two other situations. Here's one, letter C, where it just says x equals 2. And so what we need to do is we can rewrite this as 0y. And the reason I put 0y is because we don't see a y term. So we could just put 0y. 0y plus x equals 2. Typically we want to get the y by itself, but I can't. Because if I brought the y over by itself, I wouldn't have a y term. It would cancel out. So whenever we have y as with a coefficient of 0, that means the y term is going to cancel out. No matter what y value you have, x is always going to equal 2. So any y value yields x equal to 2. No matter what, any y value, you're always going to end up getting an x value of 2. So if I go over 0, or over 2 up 0, y value is 0, I get x of 2. If I go up 1, I still have an x value of 2. So no matter what, x is always going to equal 2. So whenever it's just x equals a number, it's going to end up making a vertical line is what we end up getting when it's just an x equals a number. Now, if it's just y equals a number, well, this one, now remember, a vertical line has no slope. We can't have slope because we don't have a y. We have a 0 in front of y. It's a vertical line. It doesn't have any value to go over, no matter how many spaces you go up. Again, you could rewrite it as a slope of 1 to 0, but you can't divide by 0, so that's why it doesn't end up having a slope. The slope is undefined. Well, over here, we actually do have a slope, so we could go ahead and rewrite it in the slope-intercept form. Again, you could put 0 out in front of x because you don't see a 0 here. That's what the coefficient is. And so the slope is 0. So what that means is you're going to start at the y-intercept at positive 1, and we're just going to go up 0, but over 1. So we don't go up at all any points. We just go in any spaces over, but just always up 0, up or down 0. And so what we have here is a horizontal line. So again, the slope equal 0. 0 over any number. Just, it could be any number you wanted to put there, and it would still be a horizontal line. So if we ever have y equaling a number, it's a horizontal line, whereas slope equals 0. If it's a x equals a number, then it's going to end up being a vertical line. Well, that's part 2. We'll take a look at the next set of directions tomorrow.